Hello and welcome to this lab demonstration on configuring Active Directory, adding an identity source. After completing this lab video, you will be able to add an Active Directory domain as an identity source on a vCenter server. Setting up an Active Directory domain as an identity source is only possible after you join the vCenter server to the Active Directory domain. In this lab, this has already been done. Our vCenter server has already joined the domain. Since we will use the VMware vSphere client to add an identity source, you should be familiar with the vSphere client user interface. Note that we are only adding the Active Directory domain as an identity source in this lab. We will not use it to log in with an Active Directory user, and we will not assign object permissions to Active Directory users. These would be the next steps in using Active Directory to authenticate vSphere users, which is a common scenario. In this lab exercise, we will add the Active Directory domain vclass.local, a domain that we already belong to as an identity source. I'm sure I provided you enough good reasons to watch the following video on configuring Active Directory, adding an identity source. Now, let's get started. In the first and only task of this lab, we will add the Active Directory domain vclass.local as an identity source so that we can log into the vSphere client as Active Directory users. We want to perform the configuration on vCenter server SA VCSA01. So the first step is to connect to this server. Then we log in using the default administrator account, administrator@vsphere.local, and the configured password of that user. To add a domain as an identity source, we click the menu item here, and then we select Administration. In the navigator pane under Single Sign-On, we have to click Configuration. In the right pane under Identity Sources, we see that currently we have two identity sources. One is the vsphere.local domain, and the other one is the local operating system. So we click Add. And now we have to first select the identity source type. The type that we want to add is Active Directory Integrated Windows Authentication, so we can leave it as is. And the domain is vclass.local. We click Add, and the domain now appears under the list of identity sources. We added the Active Directory domain vclass.local as an identity source. Congratulations! You have completed the Configuring Active Directory, Adding an Identity Source lab demonstration video. In this lab, we added the domain vclass.local as an identity source. Note that you must first join a domain. Only then can you add the domain as an identity source. In this lab, we were already part of the domain when we started. In a production environment, you would typically perform these steps together. You would join the domain, add the domain as an identity source, and then typically grant permissions to the Active Directory users, which we haven't done in this lab. Thank you for watching this lab demonstration video. I hope the knowledge acquired here will help you with your daily job assignments, and good luck as you continue your journey in VMware world.